Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to The Soul of the Unexplained with your host, Jim Kelgard. As always, he is from New York, not New York City. Just wanted to
Don't
let you guys know that.
don't hold that
And
against me.
also your co-host here, Roger Stokes. We also have Mr. John Nyberger joining us tonight. John, welcome.
Thank you.
And of course, we have a very, very special treat for you tonight. Huge congratulations and welcome to Jon Stratton. John, welcome to the Soul of the Unexplained. So good to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I'm a huge fan of the show. Been long time listener, first time caller.
Right on.
Awesome, awesome. We are so
Yeah.
excited to have all four of us together to speak about all things unexplained, just like where Jim was born. That is really hard to explain. Jim, can you tell us more about that?
Hey, there's nothing unexplained about where I was born. I have a valid birth certificate that says that I was born in the United States. We'll leave it at that. I was born in a great little, well, I shouldn't call it a hamlet, although because that's what they call small towns in upstate New York as hamlets. But I was actually born in the booming metropolis of Endicott, New York, which also happens to be, coincidentally, the birthplace of IBM, believe it or not. So that's the claim to fame for where I grew up. And in fact, Ronald Reagan actually came and spoke in Endicott, New York during his 1984 presidential race against, who was it? Walter Mondale, I think, back then. So, yeah. But no, come on, Raj, where were you born? You were born where? And what's
I,
the name?
I was born in the backwoods of Utah, out in a little hut. You know, us people here in Utah, we don't have the modernized stuff that we have back in New York, so it probably explains a
Right,
lot about me. So
right, absolutely. So, Mr. Nyberger, how are you doing? My favorite Denver Broncos fan. Your guys
Um,
did fairly okay in the draft.
oh man, this could be an exciting off season for sure. I didn't know I was gonna have to bring a birth certificate for this episode though, so I might have to run and grab that real quick.
Right
Well,
on.
doing well, doing well.
Good, good, good. And Johnny, Mr. Stratton, how are you? So good to see you here. So excited to have you join us.
It's great to be seen. It's great to see you guys as well. I've been doing fantastic. Spending a lot of time working and not relaxing as much as I want, but this is the greatest time to spend with you guys.
Heck yeah! And now would be a
amazing.
great time. Let's all kind of talk about what we're drinking tonight. I got me some ice cold Jarritos, which of course pairs extra well with tacos. And just in case I run out of that Jarritos, I also happen to have uh, Dr. Pepper Creamy Coconut, which is I'm happy to say is back on the shelves. So I'm all set to go. Johnny, what do you got there? That's kind of good.
All right. So I got a little bit. I have a Dutch chocolate espresso martini. I had to be fancy in honor of my first time getting in here and joining you guys. And then to back that up, in honor of our great Dino Beaver, I am drinking a fantastic Guinness.
Nice. Oh,
Awesome.
okay, Mr. Nyberger, what are you drinking? What do you got?
Well, okay, so this is water because I've been sick for days and I'm still trying to catch up. I'm so dehydrated. I've been drinking all day and I'm not still not caught up. Feeling pretty good now, but holy cow. While we were chatting before we went live or before we started recording, I was drinking a homemade hot chocolate with premium organic cocoa, like
Ah,
Wow,
actual cocoa powder. And I
that's
kind
super
of have a
fancy.
roll your own recipe. So
that's
that's exciting for me.
good, good. And
Not nearly as good as a double Dutch, but super espresso martini
Eh,
thing he's got going there, whatever that was.
Double espresso and Dutch chocolate. It's delicious.
it sounds good. And Mr. Stokes, how about you? What are you holding out on us for?
Oh man, I'm so jealous. All you guys have these fancy, nice drinks. I've just got Canada Dry here. If we can, it's like invisible. It goes in and out of the portal.
It's cloaking. You're drinking a cloaked can of ginger ale. How about that? That kind of fits
Yes,
in.
yes. I'll
That
have to
fits
talk
in.
to Dr. Travis Taylor about that and see if he can explain what's going on here. But yeah, ginger ale, that's what I got going tonight. I mean,
If
it's
it
pretty
was
simple.
Sundrop, he could help you.
Right? Is it Diet Sundrop? He'll get right on that.
Yes.
Uh, I'll tell you who we're missing on this one is Caleb. Caleb should be here with us. We'd have
Oh
such a good
God,
time with Mr. Hanks. That'd be a blast.
he'd never get anything done if he were here.
We wouldn't. We really
We'd be
wouldn't.
having too much fun with all five of us.
No doubt. All righty, gentlemen. Well, I thought we'd get started talking about we've got coming up here in just a couple of days, as a matter of fact, because we're recording this on the 31st of May, and coming up on the 3rd of June is going to be the debut episode of season 6 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. And there's already been a pretty good amount of hype building up for it. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, and seeing as how all 4 of us that are present tonight happen to be Skinwalker Ranch insiders, kind of share our enthusiasm for that group of wonderful people there in that great insider community. I thought we could talk a little bit about what we've seen on some of the previews that are coming up for season 6, and just again kind of recap once more some of the cool stuff that happened in season 5 that maybe we're hoping to be a continuation that we get to see carrying over into season 6. So, Roger, I thought we could start with you. Where's kind of what are your thoughts as we're heading into season 6 now of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch?
So I'm really excited. I've been waiting, with all of you for, since last year to continue the investigation there out at the ranch, and I really appreciate the time that Brandon has put together to get that trailer out and everything. And I know talking with you, Jim, a little bit ago, a couple weeks ago, when that trailer came out, I was just again like I just like a school kid. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the candy in the candy store. We're gonna go out, and I was just really excited, really pumped, and I can tell you it felt like a very long time for this day to get here. And I just what I love about the trailers is that they show just enough to get you really, really interested, but you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? What's under the mesa? What's going on? What's going on in the triangle? And, I'm always really impressed with the new ideas that they come up with to test the science out there. And so I'm really looking forward to all of that and what more information that we can get to actually find out, what is that secret? What is going on out there? And to me, again, I think one of the most fascinating things from season 5 was like the Dronegeddon and the discovery of that big, the big cone around there that you can't see other than when they were taking a look at the LiDAR stuff. And again, what's so intriguing is that with all that photography, and you've got that shadow on the ground, you've got a portal looking thing under the ground, and then when they're looking up, right, I mean, as Dr. Taylor stated, I mean, it looks very much like a Lorenzian wormhole. And is that's what going on there? Is there truly a portal there that's somehow activated through different things? And who's, how does that work? Who's running it? Again, I hope that we someday can get to those answers, but truly, I'm so happy to be along for the ride and really, really looking forward to it.
Right on. Excellent. And Johnny, how about you? What are some things that stood out to you from season 5 that maybe you'd like to see uh, continue on in season 6?
Well, I definitely would love to see more work with the 1.6 gigahertz stuff that they were doing. The fantastic things with the portals, especially when Blazing Bear was doing the drum circle stuff. It's honestly, it's quite fantastic to me, just given some personal experiences, given some other things from, what others involved have told me, especially about the drumming and the religious stuff with the natives possibly opening portals. I'm very intrigued in the portal aspect of what they're studying. Drone-mageddon, though, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Drone-mageddon just was terrifying. I'm thankful none of them got hurt, but I didn't realize how much damage one of those drones could really do to somebody until I started really looking medically at the possible results. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to continue with that.
Yeah, I would agree. The portal aspect is something that's always been a big point of interest for me as well. And I love how the fact that they've got data that seems to point in the direction that there is perhaps some kind of maybe naturally occurring phenomena that causes something like that to happen. Of course, there was also going back to what was it, season 2 or season 3 of the docuseries where they brought Rabbi Zadok on there that did the ancient Hebrew um, incantation that I thought was really really fascinating and interesting as well. So the fact that they brought in multiple cultural and religious slash spiritual kind of type aspects to it really I think is fascinating, and I love how open-minded the team is when they go into doing things like that, because particularly with Skinwalker Ranch, I don't think there is a one size fits all explanation to any of it. And the very name of the show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, I think that there's probably more than one secret. I think there's multiple secrets because at times, correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you disagree with what I'm going to say here, but I think that there's not just simply one phenomena, if you will. I think there's multiple. To me, anyway, there appears to be evidence of there being multiple intelligences, multiple kinds of phenomena that we've seen out there, literally running the whole gamut of what you would call, anomalous and uh, I hate using that term paranormal, but I think you guys kind of get the gist of that. John Nyberger, let me. How about you? What are some of the things that did stand out to you from season 5 that you're hoping to see maybe carry over into season 6, starting up here on this coming Tuesday?
I think I think I'm mostly interested in all things electromagnetic. Everything electromagnetic that they've discovered is mind blowing. There's so much that just can't be happening. Sure, I'm interested in, what's in the mesa, those sorts of things, the tangible things that you can actually grab and look at. But I'm very interested in the 1.6 gigahertz signal. I'm interested in the dome or the cone. Like, what the hell is that? What could possibly be generating that and keeping it stable, if it is stable? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, what how does it behave? How do you characterize it? Does it behave differently if you do different things? What new ways have Travis and Eric come and the other people had come up with, to investigate that? I'm really intrigued by that. One that's been driving, this is a minor thing, but it's been driving me crazy. And I swear I've put way too much thought into this for someone who has absolutely zero idea what he's talking about. But the beacon that they use to drill into the mesa, at one point when there was the 33 megahertz signal line, on the analyzer, but
Right.
then at a certain point when it hits whatever it's hitting, and suddenly you have almost like reflections at even spaces, frequency gaps, on the spectrum analyzers that pop up. That blows my mind. Like, if you really think about what that means, it's almost as if, and I want to talk to Travis about this. So remind me soon.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but
Yes.
remind me in the very near future, guys. I want to ask him about that because it almost does seem like, and I mentioned it to him once and called it like a temporal prism, but it's almost like the reflections, some of them are going forward in time at even intervals, and some are going backwards in time in
Right.
and that's
Right.
why the frequency shifts are specific. Johnny's biting his tongue.
I am biting
I
my
can
tongue a
see
little
him.
bit. I
He's over
really wanted to
going,
interrupt you for a
oh,
split second when you said prisms, just to say
uh-huh.
thank you. So, in all of the notes and things that I've looked at and I've talked about it, I keep calling it like it looks like a prism. And that's my theory, is it's almost like
Yep.
it's a temporal prism that
Temporal prism.
when they shine that laser, for instance, that vertical laser,
Hmm.
and it looked like it was refracting the
And it,
light,
it it
but then
bends.
it
It bends. Yeah.
reconvenes.
Yep.
Yeah, but it reconvenes.
Yeah.
It's very characteristic of it hitting a prism, and it's very
But not
not
a physical
characteristic.
prism.
Right. But it's very characteristic of it not hitting a prism once it gets around to the other side of that. It's
Right?
very odd how it spreads and reconvenes. But yeah, you saying prism, that's a buzzword for me when I was looking at all that. Thank you for
Yeah.
saying it, because
But
it's
it's
Yeah.
not, it's clearly
very
not
much
a
what I've been thinking.
physical, it's not a physical prism that we're used to thinking of. To me, it's temporal, and
It is. It is temporal because think back to again. I think it was Pete Kelsey that did the actual test on it, where there was that uh, quarter of a second discrepancy with the not just the GPS but the lidar reading. There was like a lag time, and Pete was like, that gap in time is significant. It may seem like it's, I mean, a fraction of a second, but how do we account for that? I mean, that shouldn't be possible. And then
yeah,
you have the
the,
GPS anomalies, because GPS anomalies are based off of time, right? How quickly at the speed of light that the GPS signal can get back to the sensor there. So the fact, like in this past season that we saw in season 5, where the drones are automatically, like, as soon as they come online, they're already showing, even though they're currently based in the triangle, all of a sudden, like that, they're now showing in the East Canyon, which, is like, now physically, they weren't there physically. Physically, they were still there in the triangle, but the sensors on them had them, and for want of a better word, teleported, if you will, over to the East Canyon. So there's definitely, like you said, that prismatic effect of some kind of temporal nature that I think is just absolutely fascinating, and it just kind of shows the depth of this mystery, I think.
Because think about that. The way I mean this, when I say temporal prism, when you shine light into a regular prism, it gets spread out across the electromagnetic spectrum, but
Right,
it's still coherent in time.
right,
It's still all this, it's all happening at the same time, but now you've broken it up into multiple let's if it's visible light, you've got multiple colors now available. You've got a rainbow appearing, because of the prism. But with the temporal prism, it's almost like the same event gets split out into multiple timelines. And it doesn't have to be a wide like I would be really curious. You could probably figure out the refractive index, if you wanted to call it that, of this temporal prism by looking at that 33 megahertz signal and then looking at the interval between each of the gaps going
mhm.
forward and backward. That's essentially, you could reverse engineer you could calculate the refractive index, the temporal refractive index. I'm coining that right now. The
Nyberger
temporal
theory.
refractive index, the Nyberger index of that by doing that, because when you shift something, if you shift something into the future, that means it takes longer for those peaks in the wave to reach us, which means the peaks appear spread out, which means their frequency is lower. That's going to be a lower peak. The lower peaks on that analyzer are the peaks that got shifted into the future from our perspective.
Right.
And the ones that are in the forward are the ones that got shifted into the past from our perspective. And each peak is further and further into the future or the past from our perspective. And I think if you measure that gap, you can do some math, some algebra, and figure out what that index is. And maybe that'll tell you something about what's happening. I don't know. I'm telling you, I think way too much about that. It drives me nuts that happens, because that shouldn't happen. There's a lot of things about the ranch we say this can't happen, but it's
Well,
happening. And
you
that's
you
one of them that just gets stuck in my head.
you think it drives you crazy. Imagine what that's got to be doing to Travis and Eric and
Well,
and Jim
they're
and Sam. I
they're
mean, the
obviously
guys the guys that are out there. I mean, it's, you know again, like the stuff that we saw happen this last season with the lasers. Um, we don't know of many instances where that should even be possible, but yet we saw it happen. It's on camera,
yes.
and not only was
Lasers
it on
don't stop
camera,
and start,
yeah, that's not the way light is supposed to behave,
and
right?
they don't just stop in the sky.
Right. Exactly. So again, it's one of those things where, and I know Roger and I have talked about this a lot regarding the docuseries, but anytime the the naysayers come out in force, it's really easy to tell that these people are not actually watching the show, because
Right.
if you actually take the time and watch the show, how can you not be as equally astounded as the team is, if not more? Because this is stuff that is not, you know, this is not a scripted show. This is not something that they just devise in the off season. Hey, how can we get, how can we spike the ratings? Oh, I got an idea. Let's do this. That's
And
not
all
what
of
they
us here
do.
know that.
Yeah.
The
Oh my
four
gosh,
here
I have to stop
know
writing for the show
absolutely
now.
for a
Dang it.
fact this is not a scripted show.
Right.
Correct.
Not a scripted
And
show.
I
Yeah.
have a very unique perspective of people trying to tell me that the show is fake, the show is a bunch of wackos, and every time someone's trying to tell me that all of this is for show, none of it's real, everyone on there is crazy, I know they haven't watched it because they're talking to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's spot
Great
on
point.
right there.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
the
true.
one thing that I'm curious to get you guys' perspective on as we talk about all these strange things that shouldn't happen. You know, um, you know, John, you're talking about the temporal prism, and Johnny, you're talking about all the different frequencies and things that happen. When we bring in other cultures, religious type things, and I think I've been thinking about this for a while, but um, when I first started watching the series, back when it first started, it was merely a place of curiosity and, just being like, this is great. This is fun. This is down my alley of all things unexplained, paranormal, things that are strange, can't explain. But especially after last season, and I think going into this season, I'm gonna adjust my focus or my lens as I watch the shows and kind of change it into a couple categories. And the first is, and this is what I want you guys is to we can have a discussion around, but consciousness, how does consciousness now affect what's going on out there? Because the show has gained in so much popularity and there's so many people thinking about this and there's so many minds that are going into how has that affected the activity on the ranch? But also, you know, as I think about past seasons, also looking at frequencies that you guys talked about, vibrations, and it almost seems that whatever is there, or the multiple things that are there, you can tangibly, and they've proven this over and over again, that like when they do bring in like the rabbi and they're playing the chants or the blazing bear, things begin to happen. And so as things resonate on different frequencies and sounds, how does that really work into what's going on at the ranch? And it's, I don't have a specific answer for it, but I think a lot of things out there that are happening are now centered around like some of these key principles that we may not fully understand. And I'm just curious to what you guys think about combining all that together, because a lot of that stuff from last year, and I'm hoping this year too, will incorporate a lot of that stuff. And it just makes me wonder if we go down that rabbit hole, what more are we able to see and understand and unlock some of those secrets there that we haven't in the past?
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome,
think we're going to
Raj.
learn new physics. We're going to learn something new about consciousness, and we're going to discover that Cabin in the Woods was secretly a documentary.
And we're going to
Wow.
launch a rocket.
And we're going to launch rockets.
And launch a rocket.
Nobody will see that one coming. Um, yeah, I think that's a fantastic line of discussion, Raj. I think that, and I know I've said this a lot of times, I think consciousness is at least plays some role in figuring out what some of the mystery is to at least some of the phenomena that's going out there at Skinwalker Ranch and elsewhere with these UAP sightings that we're hearing, and I mean, we're going to probably touch upon this a little bit later, but the Skywatcher group with Jake Barber, and their so-called psionic uh, methods that they're using to summon UAPs and or control UAPs. Um, it all seems to tie into some level of consciousness. And again, as I've said multiple times before, and I still don't quite know how to articulate this. I think someday we're going to realize or come to the realization that consciousness, once we define come to some kind of a consensus as to what consciousness even is, I think we're likely to find that consciousness is the predominant life form in the universe. Um, and it's just something that I've felt very strongly uh, for the last several years, really kind of since Roger and I, that you and I started going down this Skinwalker Ranch rabbit hole. And just learning all the things that I have, there seems to be that one of the common threads, I think, is the role that consciousness plays in some of the phenomena. I think whether we're going to use consciousness as a form of communication or what the case may be, I think that consciousness and again the Native Americans, we look back to them. What were some of the points that they always talked about was also frequency, vibration, and consciousness. Those three things. Um, we've already seen frequency plays a big role in Skinwalker Ranch, at least in seeming apparently seems to trigger sometimes some of the events and phenomena out there. So frequency, I think, is a big part of it. And I think we're going to see, as time goes on, we're going to see frequency playing more and more of a role in the experiments and investigations that they do. But I would really love to see somehow, and again, how, I don't know, but I would love to see consciousness uh, come more into focus as far as maybe what some of the theories might be as to how consciousness may be involved in connecting with whatever these intelligences are that are out there on the ranch and in the Uinta Basin at large is kind of how I feel. Johnny, how about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, that was excellent. I really agree with you on the consciousness part. Consciousness has been, you know, underappreciated in the science of looking at what's going on at the ranch. It's been shown in different ways, whether people want to believe it or not, has been shown to drum up activity. People thinking about certain things and certain things happen. If you focus on something for too long, something might happen. It's a very concerning and interesting part of the ranch that we haven't really looked at, you know. So I definitely agree with you.
Right on. And Mr. Nyberger, how about you?
What that reminded me of, I mentioned this a long time ago. Like in one of the first episodes of this that I ever appeared on. Uh, I remember this idea for a story, and Johnny just reminded me of it. It was this story idea where um, some sort of alien, arrives on the planet, but it's so different from us that it can only communicate through consciousness,
Right.
but it doesn't understand our consciousness, and it is interacting with our dreams, thinking that's it can interact with our dreams, and then so it thinks that our dreams are our attempt to communicate with it, so it starts creating things using its consciousness that it sees us dream in our dreams. And then so things that people start dreaming start becoming reality because of this other entity. And there's something Johnny just said. I'm like, that kind of sounds like
Yeah.
you're thinking about
I
something
think
you
we
start
started
talking
to
about.
talk about that at Phenomenon actually and got interrupted.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I don't remember if we got to is, what if these night terrors or the sleep paralysis situations where people are seeing shadow figures, what if what you're saying actually is true and that is the shadow figures trying to communicate?
Yeah, they might not be bad. That it just might be they're so different. People think they're bad because they're shadowy and scary, but it might just be it's so different from what our brains are used to interacting with. It has no way to respond other than fear.
Right.
And meanwhile, the shadow beings, they're like, "Hey, I'm cool. I'm cool. You know, I'm
Well,
just trying."
it's no, no, it's
You know,
interesting you say that, John, because when what was it, Raj? Almost 2 years ago, we did our shadow being episode, and we had Seth Bridges, who is he's one of the podcasting co-hosts with Jeff Freeman, particularly with the Oak Island stuff. And Seth also had a shadow being encounter with the Hat Man guy, the same being that I've had multiple encounters with. And whereas my encounters were overwhelmingly negative in nature, Seth says that his encounter with Hat Man actually was a a positive experience for him. So, um, again, I'm not closed-minded enough to say that just because my experience went one way that it can't go that way for somebody else. So that's a very a very interesting theory. That's I'd love to see more research done on something like that. And I'm
Absolutely.
telling you, we gotta one of these times, especially with you, Johnny, we gotta have a conversation about shadow beings, because that's another rabbit hole that Roger and I have been down, that where, for me anyway, that's the one area where I crossed the threshold from being a casual believer to being an experiencer, and completely changed my life, and whatnot. But yeah, that's a very interesting, compelling theory, John. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that's actually true, but we hear enough stories of people saying, I was thinking of something, or we were just talking about something, and then next thing you know, whether it's immediate or it's the next day, or at least,
Right.
too close for comfort in time, that
Hmm.
something happens and they're like, wait a second. That ties directly into this conversation you and I had in that field over there by ourselves 2 days ago, something like
Hmm.
that. Or
Yeah.
sometimes it's um, people that aren't even at the ranch are thinking something, and something happens at the ranch, and then only later do they realize, oh,
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah.
Just
Tell
weird,
you. Well,
weird, and not just at the ranch. I mean, stuff like that happens. I mean, just generally speaking, there's something about that. I don't know what you would call that. That type of paranormal thing. Like, what would you even call that? I mean, it's kind of a synchronicity, a coincidence kind of thing, but it's almost generative. It's generative
Yeah.
synchronicities. Like one person mentions something here, and it actually happens over there to a family member,
Hmm.
and a couple days later they're talking and realize that happened, and that happens fairly often. That's weird. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, a lot of it's going to be coincidence. Rare things happen every day. Unbelievably rare things happen every day. But once in a while, after a while, enough of that happens, and it's like, well, okay, there might be more to it than just coincidence, right?
Yeah.
coincidences sometimes aren't really just coincidence too. You got the power of suggestion in there, but sometimes things are just going to happen whether you plan for it or not.
Right.
But no, Jim, we definitely at some point got to talk about those shadow people because I've had both positive and negative experiences.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one thing that, for Roger and I, the where it took a really sharp left turn for me with the whole shadow being thing was last year at Phenomicon, when Roger and I had we were both wide awake. We had the shared experience. We both saw and felt the same thing. And that, for me, one of those buzzwords that was going around last year for the ranch was validation, right? And nothing is more validating than having an experience like that when somebody else is right there in the room with you, seeing and experiencing the same exact thing that you are. Because most of my other experiences, like my experiences with the Hat Man being, were all entirely by myself. There was nobody else around. So um, I can't prove it that it happened one way or the other because I didn't have any eyewitnesses there. But last year, when Roger and I had this happen to us um, at Phenomicon, it just kind of added more depth and gravitas to it, that, hey, this is really something. And in hindsight, Roger and I think we kind of have an idea of what it might be. In fact, John, I think you were probably the one that made the recommendation of what you thought that it might have been. And um, but still, yeah, there's it's all that stuff, and the ranch, and that's why one of the many reasons why the ranch is so fascinating to me is that it seems to be kind of like a catch-all for all of these things that we've been talking about. There is, there's been reports of shadow beings out there. There's been reports of, your standard poltergeist-like activity out there. They've seen nuts and bolts craft. They've seen orbs. They've seen there's been accounts, at least from going back to the Bigelow days, not so much with the modern the team that's on there right now, but cryptids that have been sighted on the ranch. Jimm Morse, the ranch the ranch manager there, he's even talked about how he's seen what he thought was an actual skinwalker on the ranch one time. So you kind of get the whole spectrum, if you will, um, of kind of what these experiences are out there on the ranch. And I think that's just one of the things that draws me in. And the thing that I love about it still is the fact that the team that's organized and assembled out there, we couldn't ask for a better team because they are being led by the data. They gather data, and what people don't understand, a lot of the naysayers, is that it's a scientific process. And scientific processes don't happen like that. They don't get resolved over the space of a 42 minute, weekly television show. It takes time to be able to verify or falsify hypotheses that are out there. And so once they finally have enough data to truly make a statement and say, okay, this is how we've arrived at this potential conclusion because of A, B, C, and D. Here's the work that we did to arrive at this, hypothesis. This is why we think it's A, B, C, or D. And I have nothing but the utmost confidence in the team that's out there, from Eric Bard, Travis Taylor, Jim Royson, Sam DeRizzo, all the guys that are out there that are actively engaged in the scientific aspect of the investigation at the ranch. You could not ask for a better, more credentialed team, more integrity. I mean, these guys, obviously, we've all had a chance to hang out with these guys and get to know them a little bit. But when it comes time to really, put their nose to the grindstone, trust me, they know what they are doing, and you could not ask for a better, more solid team that's out there. And I think it's just one of those mysteries that it's just so exciting to me. I mean, still here we are, six seasons later, and I'm still chomping at the bit to see these new episodes. And I know from having talked with Caleb Bench a number of times about it. Just imagine how hard it is for these guys to have to bite their tongue, all the exciting stuff that's happened that they can't tell us about, that they want to tell us about because of the NDAs. And it just requires a little modicum of patience to be able to get to the bottom of it. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm invested in the long run. I think some of the greatest, as Brandon Fugel says, it's the frontier of science. It really is. And what an exciting place to be. What an exciting time to be alive to watch all of this going on. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. And I think what I find most interesting, or what I'm really looking forward to, is the fact that each season, they're learning more than the previous season. It's like an avalanche building up, and the past, like season, what, three? No, wait, what season is this? Four, season four. Well, three was good, but four was really picking up.
Yeah.
It was like, holy cow, that was crazy. And then they're like, well, wait till you see what happens in season five. And we see season five, and like, holy shit, like, what the hell? But the nice thing is, now they're getting stuff that they're like, earlier seasons, they're kind of stumbling around in the dark. They don't even know what they're looking for. They're just trying stuff and seeing what happens. And they get a result and they're like, well, that's weird. And then they try something else and get a different result. And they're like, well, that's weird. But it doesn't really start coming together until later season. Now, with season five, there was enough stuff in there that they're like, okay, we know what we can look at. There's a freaking dome over the ranch.
Right.
It's there. We know we don't know what this is, but it's there. Like stuff like that. Like there's stuff that they're like, okay, we know where to look now. We don't know what we're looking at, but you've got guys like Eric and Travis that are pretty freaking smart, that can come up with some ways to kind of poke at this new hornet's nest that they found and see what comes flying out, figuratively speaking. But that's exciting because once they start, each time they learn a little bit more, that expands the toolbox, the available toolkit that they can use to bring to bear on future investigations. So
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
very excited about this season.
Roger, looking back on the previous 5 seasons, how far would you say the show has become? How would you gauge the evolution, if you will, of the show since season one?
So, I mean, I guess it really depends on your view of the journey that has happened. Because I think each individual out there has had a different journey that they've gone through. And for me, it's kind of like, well, it makes me laugh. So when I think about, you know, Dr. Taylor and him that first season, just thinking everybody's batshit crazy and like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna solve this thing in an hour and I'm gonna tell them, yeah, this is what's going on out here. And but I think it's really, seeing that initial recognition of, okay, things are happening. We don't know what's happening. And these things that happen, they shouldn't happen. Like, doesn't happen anywhere else in the world that I've been. Right. And so John, I think you said a little bit, they're a little bit in the dark that first season and they're just kind of throwing darts and things and seeing what sticks. And then from there, they're starting to formulate plans and they build that foundation. And so I think the natural evolution of what they've done makes a lot of sense to me, and it's exciting to go on that discovery too. From I think to some of just absolute disbelief, like, no, I'm out here. I don't really believe that this stuff is happening. I've heard all the legends, right? But that doesn't happen to me. To, like even Dragon has said, I haven't had these experiences, but then all of a sudden, in the last few seasons he's starting to see stuff. He sees the UAPs. He, is a witness, so to speak, to all the stuff that's happening. And I think that that's really, really strong. And I think that that's what carries the camaraderie of the team, and their ability to communicate with each other. Because I know that they've said in the past, like they've become such a great family. They will like finish each other's thoughts. It's almost like the consciousness, like we talked about. They're
Right.
connected. One person's thinking something and saying it, and then the next person's like, "Oh yeah," and they just finish the sentence there. And so for me, the natural evolution has been great. And I'm just excited for, like to be along for the ride and to see what more it uncovers because each season focuses on a different aspect, but also takes that investigation further. And again, I said this before, but it amazes me that with all those minds, what they do to come up with different experiments for the season that builds on the previous experiences or experiments, but actually takes it further so they can gather more data and more risks that they're willing to take. Season one was very, very cautious because of, what happened to Thomas and the different things and the legends. And I'm really, really happy that even though there have been horrible and bad things that have happened out there, that they are taking calculated risks to push that science forward and making sure that it's done in a safe but consistent way where we're actually seeing what they're seeing. And I don't know, it's just really nice to be inside that and have that view. And so I have to say, hats off to Brandon Fugel for making this happen, for him having his own experiences that changed him into a believer, and then bringing everybody onto the ranch. So I just think it's been great. These last 5 seasons I've enjoyed so much, and just even talking about it. And with you, Jim, with you, Johnny, with you, John, it's fun to talk about because we all have had different experiences to different degrees, and
Oh,
it's fun to share that and build upon that knowledge. And that's just what makes it so exciting for me because Jim, we could just talk about this for hours and hours and hours and go on, which we have off camera many, many times. But yeah, I'm just
Right.
excited. I could talk on and on, but I'll stop there. So
Right on. Johnny, how about you? How is the evolution of the docu-series, not just the docu-series, but just you have a unique perspective yourself. How would you say the investigation has progressed? Are you as pleased, I guess, for want of a better word, as Roger and I are, as fans watching the show progress, watching the the conversion, if you will, of Travis Taylor and Dragon, who were both kind of like, Dragon used to say that he was paranormal kryptonite because nothing ever happened around him and while he was there. And now, as Roger said, we've seen instances where Dragon has been there on site as some of these truly extraordinary things have happened. And then, of course, Travis going from yeah, I'm going to sort this out, soon as I can, and it'll all be a done deal. So, how would you say that how is the docuseries and just the investigation, docuseries or not, how has it been progressing in your eyes?
I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. Now, what I really love about the show, taking the fact that it's Skinwalker Ranch out, taking all my personal endeavors and everything that I've been involved with out. The thing about the show that I love the most that people don't always give credit is it's the perfect demonstration of the scientific method. Coming into the first season, you had literary research and no practical research already done. So they're coming into this with legend, with fear, because they didn't know what was going on, and they slowly have progressed to start developing hypotheses, to gathering all this data, start actually experimenting and testing these hypotheses. So now we've gone from this slow roll, which is what science is, to this broad spectrum of data, and we're starting to get kind of into that analysis. They try to do analysis as we go, but science has always told us you can't really get to analysis until you're at more of a conclusion of your experiments as a whole. And I really just appreciate, I mean, Travis taught me the scientific method in the Rocket City Redneck days. That's where I learned how to do science. Building submarines and launching rockets is something I've always loved, and he taught me about science through that. So I really just appreciate that they've stayed true to knowledge for knowledge's sake, integrity, being honest, and to go back to what we were talking about with these guys when it comes to their integrity, their love for each other, for everyone else, their respect for all of us as insiders is, the conversations I've had with these guys. They should have probably slid NDAs in front of us at times and said, "Hey, we should probably sign this," but they never have because they know we're not going to go off talking about this stuff. They are a open, loving group of guys who will finish each other's sandwiches like we were talking about before. Especially if Eric happened to be the one cooking that night, because his experiments on the SWR are great. I have heard tragic things about his experiments in the kitchen. So please have sandwiches on standby.
I respectfully invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege on that.
I'm just glad someone else was thinking finish each other's sandwiches. Because I almost jumped in to say that. I'm like,
yeah. No, I think, and I can see that too. I mean, obviously we've all the four of us have been fortunate enough to get to know all the team that's out there at the ranch. But even before that, though, Roger, you and I commented before we even got to meet the team at the very first Phenomicon, that they seem to have a camaraderie, a brotherhood, if you will. And you kind of get that from whenever you're working in a close team environment like they are. And, again, I don't know if it's the right term to use, the right phraseology, but, shared trauma brings people together, right? And I know that.
And confirm.
Yeah. And so,
yeah.
that's not to say that everybody that's on the team now has experienced the dreaded hitchhiker effect, but still, the fact that they've experienced things that defy our understanding of physics, our understanding of reality. In fact, Travis has told us a number of times at Phenomicon gatherings that the things that they see on the ranch break your perception of reality, of what is real. How can things like this are not supposed to be able to happen. Some of the things that they see. And that's just the stuff that we know about that they've been able to reveal so far. I mean, think of the things that they've seen and experienced that they haven't released yet. And so for me, it's, again, kudos to Brandon Fugel for putting this great team together. I've had the opportunity to meet Brandon Fugel just once briefly. to talk about what else? Music, of course, right? And thankfully, Brandon is his passion for music lines up perfectly with mine. He's a big Depeche Mode and OMD fan, and of that whole 1980s era. So, um, but he has put together truly an all-star team from every aspect of it. I mean, from the security guys like Eric and or Caleb and Dragon, clear up to the scientific guys. You know, again, Eric, Travis, Jimm, and Sam, and then of course selecting the vendors that come out onto the property. People like Pete Kelsey, people like New Salt Laser, you know, Sky Elements, the drone folks, Lunasond, and all the other great ones that they've had out there. Um, Really, they are bringing out the truly the best people in the chosen fields, that they bring in the subject matter experts, and these are truly some of the foremost experts in the particular disciplines that they specialize in, that they're bringing onto the ranch. Nowhere else on any other docuseries are we seeing anything to this great depth and extent of authority and credibility in regards to being subject matter experts. And I don't think that's something that can be can be overstated, is the how important that is to bring in the right people from outside the ranch to come on and help out and lend a hand from time to time. So I'm excited. I can't wait for June 3rd to come along, and can't wait to see that episode. And you know, I think season 6 is going to be every bit as awesome and as crazy of a ride as season 5 was. I didn't think anything would be able to top season 4, and then season 5 came along, and you know, John and Roger, when that Cone Zone episode aired, I was literally jumping off the couch. I mean, it was like, you know, no, that didn't just happen. How is this possible? So I would love to see some more moments like that. I think there's probably a good chance we might get some of those moments in this new season. Um, so I'm excited. I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I'm absolutely optimistic that this upcoming season of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is going to be well worth the wait, and I think it's going to take us deeper down the rabbit hole. And as we've seen along the way, I think every time we get new results, the answers may not be coming, but it just raises more questions, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if we're, you know, maybe we've been asking the wrong questions all along with some of these things. And like Eric Bard loves to say, I just want to be caught red-handed in the act of learning. And that's what I love about this program, is that you know, if you're careful, you just might learn something. Word.
Wow.
Right on. So to wrap up the Skinwalker Ranch talk, just real quickly, lightning round. Pick one thing that happened in season 5 that was the most impressive to you, and I'll give you 10 seconds to respond. We'll start with you, Jon Nyberger.
The dome stuff. Yeah. Domes, lasers, stopping. There you go.
Right on. Johnny, how about you?
I pray this was season 5 because I might be wrong, but the potential dire wolf carcass.
Yep. That's
Yeah, I
season
lose
5.
track. That was last year, right?
Yep.
That was last season? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I get
Absolutely.
them
Truth, I
mixed
didn't
up.
watch it. I didn't actually see that episode, believe it or not. I somehow missed it.
Wow. Okay. Roger, how about you?
You know, when Travis and Caleb were watching that rocket parachute back down after they launched it, and it just stopped and hung there frozen in midair, and they're like, "What? How is that even possible?" And then, you know, a couple seconds later, then it just starts moving back down. Mind blown.
Yep. Absolutely. And for me, I'm going to take both what Johnny said and what Jon Nyberger said, because for me, the two biggest points for me were the cone, the discovery of the cone, and the discovery of what might be the dire wolf carcass. And we hopefully, and I'm not speaking from any position of insider knowledge, tisk tisk. I'm hoping that we get the DNA results on the jaw and the bones from that carcass that they found in the river, because there's there's some interesting things that where that river on Skinwalker Ranch is concerned that go clear back to the days of the Bigelow era. That I think, speaking of portals, there's some people that have put forth a theory that there may be some kind of portal or gateway that is based in or around that river there, which wouldn't surprise me either, given the fact that that it is Skinwalker Ranch. So, closing thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch before we move on. All right, good, good, good. All right, so Roger, I asked before we got everybody together. I put forth a kind of like a philosophical question to you, and it's kind of a simple question, but it's also a bit of a loaded question. And so I wanted to ask you, what exactly would quote unquote disclosure regarding UAPs? What would it look like? What would be the immediate actions? Let's do the classic scenario where either somebody in the current United States president's administration, or somebody else in the U.S. government, or perhaps even another world leader, or something else happens that basically comes out and, for want of a better word, discloses the fact, just even on the very high level, that we're not alone. How do you think that is going to be received? How will that even make waves in the current news cycle of something, if a big bombshell like that were announced, that, hey, guess what, we're not alone?
That is a very loaded question. And if I were to answer it from the perspective of Hollywood, there would be mass chaos and people running around, a few people being like, "Oh, this is so cool," but the world would burn. My
So
personal belief,
basically, a Taylor Swift concert is what you're saying.
yes, yes, yeah, the
Okay.
world would burn. There would just be crazy chaos. Personal perspective, I think that I don't know. I tend to look on the more positive side of things, at least try to. Um, and I think that governments around the world, sometimes they don't put trust in humanity. They don't put the trust in their people. And while I certainly think that there would be factions of people, if this disclosure happened in whatever way it happened, that there would cause some, maybe a little fear and panic. But I believe the vast majority of humanity would be excited about that, at the potential of understanding that we're not alone in the universe. Because to me, it makes sense that we're not alone. There's just, I mean, if you look at the evidence of in outer space on things that we've learned, as we've progressed in our understanding of science, it makes sense that we're absolutely not alone. And whether that means it's extraterrestrial, interdimensional, I mean, all of the above, right? And for me, I think that when that disclosure, if it happened already, a lot of people would put in place, and I think natural curiosity would take over, and people would be asking, like, when did this happen? How long have we been visited? What do we learn from these people? Can we meet them? You know, via, if they hadn't already just all of a sudden a ship decloaks and there's like all these ships around the world in the sky, or whatnot. But I really think that now more than ever, people are ready for disclosure. People want answers. So many people have seen things that they can't explain. And we already know by now that governments absolutely have in the past tried to cover things up, say, what you saw is not what you saw, it's this, right? And so there has been a lot of, I think, repression and that behavior of trying to silence that knowledge. And I think we live in an exciting time where it's not necessarily a taboo subject anymore. And so I think, simply put, I think most of the people across the world would be excited about what that means and how we can actually solve some of the world problems that have plagued us for centuries.
So do you see there this doomsday scenario of, the financial markets collapsing and, um, you know people that are, particularly um, fervent about a whatever particular religious belief they may have, do you think it's going to cause problems with those kind of segments of people in society, or do you think it's going to be, because one side of me wants to think, let's use the New York Times article in 2017 as a gauge, right? Now, the New York Times, you don't get much bigger as far as news organizations in the United States goes. It's one of the big ones, right? And so they run this story in 2017 about the Tic Tac incident and the program at the Pentagon, and it was news for maybe a 24-hour, maybe 48-hour cycle, and then it barely registered a blip anywhere else in mainstream media. And so on one hand, I want to think with it, well, most people that are out there, there's a lot of people that are struggling to, just to get by. They're worried about, are they going to still have a job tomorrow? Are they still going to be able to make ends meet? Are they going to be able to pay for school for their kids? Are they going to be able to, pay for this big medical procedure that they've got to have done? Um, is life going to get in the way of disclosure? Is it the kind of thing where it's going to be the people like us that pay attention to this kind of thing? It's going to, be huge news, but is it something that's really truly going to have that earth shattering, you um, effect, if you will, as we think that it will? And I have to kind of say that, I think it would surprise all of us. I think, like you said, Roger, there's going to be one segment of society that if that news does come forth, they are going to embrace it, and they are going to absolutely be like, okay, finally, tell us what we did. We haven't known this for years. And then you're going to have another segment, I think, that are going to view this as this is the devil, this is Satan, this is evil. This is just, we should just stay away from it. It's bad stuff. And then I think you're going to have another portion altogether that are going to be kind of apathetic about it. They're going to be like, oh, that's great. So there's other intelligences here. What does that got to do with the fact that I'm still paying $4 a gallon for gas? You know, um, so I think it's kind of hard to gauge, but I really don't think overall it would be a negative thing. Now, obviously, I'm looking at it through my own highly biased lens of, I think that I think we do probably share this planet with another intelligence, other intelligences, whether they happen to be from here originally or otherwise. Um, so for me, it's nothing that would upset the apple cart, as it were. But we keep hearing that word all the time: disclosure, disclosure. And I don't think disclosure is going to be a singular event. I think it's going to be just kind of like this
It happens
umbrella
over time.
this umbrella term, this catch-all, where we're just finally learning that, what was once the realm of conspiracy and taboo is really, in all actuality, steeped in reality. Just my thought. Johnny, how about you? What are your thoughts? What would something like that look like to you?
I think I might have a rather unique or different perspective just given my profession. My greatest concerns, if we do the total and immediate disclosure, should we ever find out that this is, aliens are real, they're here, all of that sort of disclosure, versus the gradual disclosure, which I would greatly prefer. The issue that I have is, like many different events that we have, many people don't realize the psychological and physical tolls on people that any sort of what they deem as catastrophic event in their lives would have on society. Every time there's a presidential election, people don't understand or even are aware of the number of hospitalizations due to psychological problems that people are having with coping that the person they're against won. And people have died Like that's I know it's a little hyperbolic to go there. People have died from anxiety and panic attacks that have led to exacerbation of other medical conditions due to the stressors of these outside events affecting their life. Whereas you, I, and everybody else here would not have any real effect because we're all just like, okay, yeah, we already knew this. We already knew aliens were probably real. We're not alone. Other people really won't be able to comprehend it. There's a full spectrum of how people will react to this sort of news.
Mhm.
I'm greatly happy to find out that we've all been right. We aren't crazy. The things that we've seen in the night sky aren't just our minds playing tricks on us. But then you have people with major psychological disorders that could harm themselves, harm others. You have people that their entire religious worldview and moral compass could be altered. And then you have those who get upset, like, yeah, how did, like you said, how does this change the fact I'm still paying $4 a gallon for gas at the pump? So I am hugely in favor of disclosure. I am against a rapid, open, full floodgates open disclosure. It's got to be gradual. It's got to be thoughtful, and there's just no way around that. They have any government that has this information has to look at what it'll do. It'll if they like I'm saying, if they full floodgated this open and all of these issues happen, it would be a period of economic issues, of public health crisis. It'll probably go away long term. It would be good. But
Mhm.
in that interim period, there would be mass hysteria.
Right.
And the issue with mass hysteria is it spreads, it's contagious.
Mhm.
So that's my great concern. I probably have a very out there, different worldview, just given what I've seen in my professional life of where this could actually go. So, is there a way that we can have disclosure? Absolutely. Full disclosure, everything out there. I find it very hard to believe that any government will allow that to happen.
Excellent. That's a great perspective. And like you said, I mean, we don't see that side of society certainly as often as you do, I'm sure. Um, and that's always the thing when we deal with something like this is we all look at it through a different lens, and it's easy for those of us that believe that disclosure is a positive thing. And I'm actually with you, Johnny. I don't think it's a, you know, I don't think we should rip the Band-Aid off and just, here's everything that we've known, um, and for probably more reasons than you've illustrated and articulated very well. I think that it does need to be probably more of a gradual process, and I think it's a good thing that I think it has been kind of trending in that kind of a direction, um, because the issue is just far more complex than I think any of us realize. I think there's people in our government right now that really even they don't have the full picture of how complex this is, or really what the ramifications are. And of course, you can never predict how everybody's going to react. Everybody's going to react to something in a different manner. Um, John, how about you? What would it look like to you? Is it do you think it's going to be something that will we see it in our lifetime? And if we do, is it going to be a positive thing, a gradual thing, a negative thing? What say you?
Who knows? I have no idea.
John's
They,
like, I don't give a
I,
shit, honestly.
no, I'm like, screw all these people. No, it's the problem we've got. Look, nobody in government is straight with us about anything already. And even they're practicing, actually, I take that back. There probably are a few that are straight with this, but because none of us believe any of them, we don't know which ones are actually telling the truth and which ones are full of shit, you know?
Right.
So we already are in a situation where most of society doesn't trust government, whether it's a blanket, we don't trust them at all, or we don't trust the people that have the wrong letter after their title,
Right.
if it's an R or a D, whichever team they're on, we're tribal, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, so there's that. And then he said there's other just issues and like economic issues, family issues, the just the state of the world in general right now. People have so many other things to worry about
Mhm.
that I think the answer to the question you asked is lies in what is actually being disclosed. If what is being disclosed is yes, for the last 80 years we've known about these lights in the sky, we've had pilots and stuff come up close to them, we've seen lots of different types of different shapes, we don't know what they are. We really need to investigate them because they're kind of hazardous. We've almost flown into them before. People have been injured when lights have come out of them or whatever it is, stuff like that. But if that's kind of the extent of it, that'll barely make the news in today's environment. No one will care, other
Right.
than the people like us, and we'll be like, well, we already knew that. But the people who don't already care are not going to care. That will not even they won't spend more than 2 seconds thinking about that. If the government were to come out and say, yes, we're being visited by alien races. We're also sharing the planet with a different race that's been here before us, that are reptilians or something. And then there are these mantis beings that are from some other planet, and they're kind of controlling everything. And then there's little gray aliens that are actually they're like automaton, half biological robots that do the bidding of the taller grays and the if they start naming this stuff off, and we have crash craft, and we have members of past administrations that have signed treaties with these groups for various purposes, and yes, abduction is real, and they're taking people to study our genetics and for who knows what. If that's what disclosure means, then yeah, we probably don't want full disclosure all at once because no one could absorb that. Like exactly what Johnny said would happen is what would happen. People can't absorb that. You've got the just societal questions that would bring up, the religious questions, um, questions of safety. Like, are we even safe? Are we
Right.
cattle? Like, are
Right.
We're
how
a
does it
zoo.
affect
Yeah.
us? We just don't know. And from the truth of the matter is, though, even in worst case, if they said all of what I just said for 99.99999% of the people on the planet, their daily lives won't change a bit, other than they have one more thing to worry about. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the case, it has been the case for the entire time we've been alive, right? So what's different? We
Right.
know about it, you know? It's like Men in Black. He's like when he's talking about all the bad things that are going on in the world, and he goes, and all of these people survive or get by because they don't know about it. Something like
Yeah.
all that changes is now we know about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I don't again, so it totally depends on what the nature of disclosure is. What if they actually know what's really going on and it's even crazier than we think, then
Right.
maybe stuff could get pretty weird in the relatively, not too distant future. But who knows? It's almost impossible to predict, and I think that's what
Right.
people
Well,
like
and
John
let's
are
let's
Yeah.
let's
because
let's
you
let's
can't
look at
predict
just
it.
this basic foundational level. Is it possible? Would it even be feasible for the U.S. government or any other world government to come forward and just simply say we categorically are not alone, and just left it at that? And even if they got into detail and said, by we're not alone, we mean that there is another non-human intelligence or multiple non-human intelligences that are either here on the earth right now or have visited or are currently visiting. If that's would that alone, would that, do you think that would that be the tipping point for some people?
I
Johnny,
think
what do you
that would.
what do you think?
I think so.
I mean, I think we've already had that too, to an extent. We've had, Stephen Greer. We've had a couple other people in Congress. I'm missing their names off the top of my tongue. I don't recall their names, but we've had quite a few people in positions of power
Mhm.
say things along the line of "We aren't alone," and I haven't had the opportunity to watch it yet. But from what I've heard, there's a new movie that's coming out that they've discussed this very thing that John has probably seen, if I'm not wrong.
I have seen
Yeah,
I've heard of this documentary.
it. It's quite
Yes.
good.
you know. So
There's some good people
it,
in it.
I, you know, I have heard there are some fantastic people in that
There
movie. I'm
is.
very excited to one day see it.
Yeah.
Um, but to piggyback off of something John said earlier and kind of take a little bit of a step back, when we start thinking about how people react to this kind of disclosure, these kind of catastrophic type of events and information, this is slightly before my memory time, but possibly within some of y'all's. Y2K. Remember how people reacted to that. You had that full spectrum of how people reacted. Everything from people with shotguns and stockpiles hiding in bunkers to, ugh, nothing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a small event that only affected people that had computers, which weren't widespread at the time. Imagine what we'd be facing now when it affects everybody and everyone has a cell phone telling them all of this information within seconds.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different world now.
Yeah.
Well, and that could be, that this is a little bit of a tangent, but we've heard Ross Coulthart, and others say, oh, I keep hearing there's something coming. It might be 2025. Oh, it might be 2026.
2027. Come on.
But another date that they throw out is 2034. Now, what's interesting about 2034 is we get another event similar to the Y2K problem.
Yes, the Raiders will actually win a Super Bowl in 2034.
Never
I'm
happened.
eligible to run for president.
Then yes, and the
Nice.
site of that Super Bowl immediately collapses into a black hole in the core of the planet. And
of course, it's the Raiders. Of course, it's a black hole. Come on.
Yep. But now the Y2K problem was, because we only use 2 digits for dates instead of 4. So when you go from the 1900s to 2000, the 0 makes computers think it's the year 1900. Well, on Unix systems, or on most systems now, we use what's Unix time, which just started at a 0 and is incrementing in 1 second intervals up to the maximum value of the number of the amount of memory they allocated for this value. And in 2034, we will hit the maximum of that value and it will flip over to 0. And then the entire world will think it's like 1971 or whatever the original date was. So
I've never heard this.
Yes, we'll get to do it again. I don't remember the details, but it's going to happen all over again. It's
Well,
fun.
1971 would be a good starting point because that was the year I was
can't
born.
remember when you. I'll find out. Let me see. I'll find out.
Isn't that the same year that supposedly there's a small chance that an asteroid will hit the Earth as well?
Oh, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
I think that's the
That's
same
every
year.
year.
January
That's every
1st,
year.
1970. Yeah. So in 2034, the entire world, every computer system in the world just might think it's January 1st, 1970.
I tell you, there's some
1970.
great music that's going to come out then.
Right?
Disco's back, baby.
I tell
Hey.
you what, Hitchhiker's got to re-release Simple Man.
Right.
Disco never went away. It just turned into new wave. Right on.
So yeah, I'm excited about disclosure. I don't think it's ever going to happen. And if it does, I hope. Actually, here's another question though, real quick. How would we know if it happened? Because what if the answer is the really bad stuff? We're sharing the planet with another race that we can't see normally. We're being visited by aliens. Abductions are real. All of this stuff is happening. But that's not what they tell us. They come out and say, oh, yeah, we've seen the lights and stuff, and we're investigating them. And we're going to create Arrow 2.0, which is really just Blue Book 2.0. And we're going to investigate these things. And there's nothing to worry about here, nothing to see here. Move along, please disperse. And everyone goes, oh, we got disclosure. How would you know that they've disclosed what they know? We will never know.
I
At no
think the
point
point
will
of
we ever know.
gradual disclosure is what you just described. That we never realize they're actually disclosing information
Yeah.
until we get to the point that it's just normal that aliens are here.
Yeah, when it happens, you're like, oh yeah, well, I figured that. And that's
Right.
a great point. We kind of do need to get to that point. You don't want the collapse of all of civilization and the world economy all at once because of something big like that. That's a real potential that we want to avoid.
We will know because Jeremy Corbell will be there to tell us and to break the news, right?
He will say he predicted it. He he
Who
has he's
planned it?
inside sources for years that have been telling him this, and he's been secretly working on a documentary for years that he has worked on himself. And I, Jeremy Corbell, have put this information out into the world. So,
Yep.
With George Knapp narrating it. So
yes.
Mm.
Jeremy for world leader 2034.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
voting.
another issue though about with disclosure. If you did full disclosure or any type of disclosure, who would people trust? Who do you get to
Well,
disclose that people are going to believe? There's really only one choice. Keanu Reeves.
John Wick.
Who else would people believe?
I'm
If
going to
Keanu
go with
Reeves
Johnny.
comes out
He's
as
going
a
to be of age
representative,
to become the president. So
if he
Yeah.
comes out and says he's a representative of the world and he's been selected to tell this to the world, people would believe Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves is probably actually already an alien, not from this earth. So it makes sense.
I'd
Yeah.
believe Clint Eastwood, and I guarantee you he's still going to be alive in 2034.
Should be.
That guy will
That's
never
a
die.
fantastic point, John. I really don't know who anyone would believe at the end of the day,
Right
because
now, there's no one. No
whether
one
the
would trust. You need someone that's trust that everyone would trust, or most people would trust.
right,
I don't know who that would be.
if they have an R or a D next to their name, people won't trust them in the U.S.
Mhm.
If
Exactly.
they're an American, people won't trust them in Europe. If they're
Yep.
European, people won't trust them in America. It
Yep.
That's a really hard point of who do we get to actually be pushing this. It's probably going to have to be a conjoined effort of all world leaders.
Somebody from Middle
And
Earth.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and honestly,
And
to be
Gandalf.
honest with you, this is the one issue that gets Congress to be sort of nonpartisan. I mean, there's still a little bit of fighting, but not much. Some of their hearings are just like, holy cow, you've got the R's and the D's right next to each other, and they're actually being civil and asking good questions and treating this like it's a real thing. About any other topic, they're just fighting with each other and being idiots. But on this, all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, there's
Yeah.
a very
Right.
there's a substantial difference in their demeanor when it comes to this topic. But you're right, we kind of need like representatives of different regions and different countries and ideologies and just get them all to say, okay, look, we all disagree about literally everything else, but we are coming together to tell you this. I don't know. I don't know how you do it.
yeah.
It's tough nut to crack.
That it is. That it is for sure. So I guess the other big bit of UAP news has been there's another whistleblower that came forward. Ross Coulthart did a thing. I guess he's a former U.S. Border Patrol agent, last name of Thompson, and he's talked about how along the southern border of the United States, specifically Arizona, New Mexico areas, which shouldn't come as a surprise to people, but that even he's just kind of one more voice to the chorus, if you will, of seeing strange phenomena in the sky, craft of unknown origin, uh, displaying flight characteristics that just simply don't match anything that we know of that's in our current inventory or any adversaries inventory for that matter, as far as we know. And then, of course, there's also more news on Jake Barber's Skywatcher organization and how they are um, apparently able to replicate results of what they're doing with these so-called psionic experiments. Now, John, I remember you and I had a conversation about this previously. So we're a couple of months down the road. What is your thoughts, if any, regarding Jake Barber and his Skywatcher organization?
I don't know, man. I just, I am in this weird position of believing that all of this stuff is possible to some extent, but in turn, not believing a damn thing anyone says.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of like, I might believe that something's possible, and someone says, "Hey, I can do this." I'm like, "Oh, you're full of shit." Like I just don't know. I mean, they're coming out with some data, I guess. They're coming out with some videos. They've done some demonstrations, and I'm like, okay, some of this is kind of intriguing. I haven't been following it too closely. I did see something today that I guess some of the things that they had filmed had already been explained naturally, but I don't know the details. I just heard that. Um, and someone else was questioning, some other things about some of the data they've provided, but at least, I mean, they're producing some stuff for us to look at, which is interesting. So if they can demonstrate what they say they can do, that's intriguing. Um, I just don't know what to make of them because there's too much of that whole story. There's too much of Barber's story that doesn't make sense to me, that doesn't seem plausible. And until my questions about his story are answered, I'll never trust him. So
Yeah.
I guess that's what it comes down to is I don't trust him. Whether he may be totally trustworthy, I don't trust him because the questions I had about his story haven't been answered yet.
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm at is the same place that I was a couple months ago, the last time we talked about this, and that is I'm still taking the wait and see,
Hmm.
because it's too early for me to really formulate an opinion yet. There are, like you said, there are things that I've seen that are very interesting, very compelling, but I've been following this topic long enough to know not to accept anything at face value. It's got to hold up, it's got to be it's got to withstand the test of time, I guess is what we can say. Roger or Johnny, do either of you have any thoughts on this latest stuff that's been in the news cycle, UAP wise, on either this Thompson guy or Jake Barber and his Skywatcher organization?
Go ahead, Johnny.
All right. It's hard to figure out who goes first once in a while when that happens. With Jake Barber, I haven't gotten that in depth with him. Without dissing on the guy at all, I haven't verified enough about him to be able to trust anything he says. That doesn't mean he's not truthful, like John was saying. He could be truthful. I just haven't verified a lot about him. The only real thing I've looked into that I've seen from him and his group of Skywatchers is they identified something as a UAP that within moments of really looking at it, I said, it looks exactly like birds. It doesn't look anything like it could be UAP. It looks like birds. They would really have to show me something that's more suggestive of a phenomenon, not a normal, regular, earthly biological thing that occurs. But I've looked into a little bit with this new whistleblower with the CBP, and he raises valid concerns. I think that all of our federal agencies should really be looking at the threat that they have, these different craft or different phenomena that they've been seeing along the border. It is a big concern
Mm-hmm.
because I believe two F-35s actually had near misses for air-to-air collisions with different UAP,
Yep.
which is a huge threat. That is major. The minute that any loss of life could be a consideration, it's a huge concern. And then our air-to-air incursion warnings aren't going off. Our systems of national defense aren't catching these things. They're not being picked up on anything. So we don't know that they're there. So it's a national defense problem, whether it's a foreign adversary, whether it's non-human intelligence or craft. It's a great concern because what are we going to do when it might be an adversarial thing that's making an incursion in our airspace?
Right.
That's a great concern, and that is CBP's job is protection of our sovereign borders as a country, and that is something I wish that they would be more aggressive about in terms of our airspace, given the UAP topic. It's just really important. And with our training grounds there, it does make it a little more concerning to be able to say what things are because it's a testing ground. They could have classified aircraft there, 30, 40 years ago, the B1 flying out there, the B2 flying out there, all these different aircraft that look like they're alien craft, they're flying in these testing grounds. Everything that we're producing now that looks like things that, 50 plus years ago and to today were UFOs, aliens, and then we find out that the U 2 spy plane is a thing. These are the training grounds they're doing this in. So CBP needs to be involved with the Air Force. They need to be involved with the different companies producing things, and they just need a more interagency cohesion with the federal government as a whole. And I hope to see Arrow actually kind of take that role on of, hey, we saw XYZ on this date and this general area. This is what it did. And then the agents can just be told, don't worry about it. We know what it is. It's our stuff, or whatever they want to tell them. These guys all have clearances. They
Mhm.
should, within reason, be able to be informed about matters of national security to just say, hey, it's ours. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Pretend you didn't see anything. And
Mhm.
that's a problem that's not really being addressed. And since the whistleblower left, he's made it kind of clear he's been hands off. He doesn't know if anything is still being continued with CBP, and there's no one that's mentioned anything further to say that they are taking these incursions as a serious threat.
And to your point, someone you're very closely related to, if I recall correctly, the Kona Blue documents, the Kona Blue project that, the information about that came out last year, was an effort to get something similar to an expanded OSAP, UAP, or not OSAP, but UAP task force expanded, but also put under DHS. And
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Like, why wouldn't you do
It's
that?
by definition Homeland Security.
Exactly.
Right.
You could still
Exactly.
keep Arrow or whatever Defense Department group you had doing their stuff, but it makes perfect sense to have something in DHS as well. I
Yeah.
thought that was a brilliant idea, and it's unfortunate that it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. By, its invention, the idea of the UAP task force, Arrow, all these things it is a location that is centralized for reporting, for communicating and documenting issues. And then anytime anyone has a problem, they go to this agency and they can say, this task force, and say, hey, this is what happened. Cool, we're documenting it. Or, hey, this is what happened. Here's our concerns. And it's like, hey, don't worry about it. This is why. That is
Or,
the
hey, worry
biggest thing.
about it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you
That's the other
worry
thing,
about
is
that.
worry about it. When we look at some of the incidents that have been going on in those different training grounds or off the coast of, uh, you know, the east coast of the United States, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say where certain incidents have occurred. There have been near misses. There have been damage to aircraft. There's been potential health problems. We do need to
Yeah.
be concerned.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, so and I forget who it was that actually made the comment, but basically, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here because I don't remember exactly how the statement went, but with the in regards to the drone incursions and stuff like that that's going on, we almost want to hope that it is the exotic, that it is, NHI or something like that, because heaven help us if some of these incursions are demonstrating technology from an adversary like China or Russia or somebody like that. And we have thus far seemingly been unable to stop it. So, to that end, you kind of want to hope that it's not an adversarial nation that has leapfrogged us, if you will, technologically, logistically, or otherwise. And so that's yeah, all very valid points that you guys made, and something for all of us to think about. And that's the one frustration that I have, regarding the drone incursions that have happened is it seems like it was this great big news item for the better part of a month, and then the new year comes around, and then everything's going to change, and we're going to get the new administration. They're going to, they're going to disclose everything, and here we are. Tomorrow is the 1st of June, and we've been given an explanation of, oh yeah, the FAA, they knew what was going on, and it's nothing to worry about. But yet we're having people from within the military, people from within the local municipality saying, no, that's not at all what we were told in our private briefings recently, that they still don't know what all these things are. So it's the optics are not good from the standpoint of what is how seriously is this really being taken? And especially on the southern border. Now, Utah is not a southern border state, but it's close enough. And I have loved ones that live in Arizona. And, you know, the border patrol is it's a vital service that we have to make sure they have the budget and the manpower and the the ability to be able to execute their duties that they're supposed to do, like you said, to protect our sovereign borders from whatever threat it might be, right? So so yeah, I really I actually found Thompson's the bit that Ross did on him I thought was interesting, and like you said, Johnny, he brought up some very valid concerns. And it's one of those things that I hope that somebody, some organization or somebody steps up and really starts to take this more seriously. And Ryan Graves, with his Americans for Safe Aerospace organization, has been really kind of leading the charge and trying to um, destigmatize the whole thing, because there's, decades long, if you have flight status, whether you're a civilian or military, in days past, if you brought up the point that you even saw something that looked out of the ordinary, you could, at least temporarily, or in worst cases, permanently lose your flight status. You could, they could hit you with the mental health evaluation and decide, Jimm over there, he's seeing things in the clouds. Yeah, let's keep him grounded for a while. And thankfully, that the tide appears to be shifting in that regard, at least within, from what we're told. I don't know how the application of that is actually being applied consistently across all the branches of the military, or uh, and in the civilian realm, we just simply have no idea. But again, I've got one of my closest friends is a an airline pilot for one of the major airlines, and even off the record, he won't talk to me. He's like, that's one subject I'm not going to talk to you about. It's almost like they've been conditioned. There's just some things you don't talk about, and that's unfortunate, because we are hearing accounts. In fact, there was an account that came out recently that said there was a one of these UAPs actually hit the cockpit of one of our fighter craft, and it didn't cause any injuries to the pilot, but still, something making contact with one of our aircraft, one of these UAPs. Was it a drone? Was it, we don't know. There again, there's a very valid concern for us to want to be aware of what's in our airspace. And these things, if they're able to fly with impunity over sensitive areas, or even non-sensitive areas, it's one of those areas where we have to do better as a country. And I'm just hoping that we eventually get there. I'll get off my soapbox.
I'm
So
right on that soapbox with you. It's okay.
right on, right on. All righty, gentlemen. So John, we've got something. What are we doing? You're going on a trip here in just a couple of days. You're heading down south somewhere, aren't you?
To the Huntsville area once again.
Huntsville. Huntsville.
Yeah, meeting
I
up with some people.
I wonder what's going on in Huntsville this week, this coming week, this next week. Tell
Um,
us. Tell us.
I think there's going to be some whiskey, some scotch, some Guinness,
Bourbon,
some bourbon, um,
tacos,
tacos,
Guacamole.
A lot of Mexican food.
I heard a rumor a man with a silky smooth voice is going to be introducing people, talking about people at some event.
Yeah,
yes.
yes,
And we know who that silky smooth voice is, don't we?
we do. That would be our good friend Micah Hanks, fellow hitchhiker brother,
That's
is
right.
once again being the MC slash host of the SCU conference,
Yes.
which starts next Friday,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of next week.
And you're actually attending the conference, aren't you, John?
Yep, yep, I will be there for the conference. Yeah,
Right
it's a
on.
lot of fun. It was weird last year, because I'm like pretty much everyone else in the room is, former military, defense contractors, intelligence, community sorts, and then there's me. and there's only a couple people there that had like no tie to any of that. Everybody else is like they're there for work.
Ah,
It's
cool.
related to work, you know. So
You
it's
got to
Well,
stop being so humble, John.
it's
Remember, you are a founding member of Hitchhiker. You're a member of this podcast. I mean, you
that's
you
how
are important. You are important.
Hitchhiker started was because of SCU last year.
right?
That's how it started. It's the weirdest thing. But yes, it was SCU last year and the events surrounding it that led to Hitchhiker's formation. Well,
And
there already was a Hitchhiker. I guess this incarnation of Hitchhiker. Yeah. Oh, yes. Hey, Jim,
I
are
don't
you
know.
gloves,
Ooh,
like padded gloves, so you don't like.
that padded gloves, man.
Very
Yes,
nice.
folks, I have gone out and I purchased myself a brand new tambourine specifically for the
Nice.
occasion. Now,
Perfect.
I will not be attending the SCU conference, unfortunately, but I will be joining John in Alabama uh, on next Saturday, a week from today. I'll be in Alabama, and Hitchhiker are giving a special private performance shortly after the SCU conference wraps up. So
Mhm.
I'm excited. I get to see Micah, I get to see Caleb, and
Yep.
I get to see Jay and Michelle, and I get to see Travis, and I get to see you, John. It's I haven't seen any of you guys in person since last September at Phenomicon, and
Yep.
um,
Fun.
Michelle and I were talking a short while ago about the guacamole. So the
Oh yeah, yeah,
guacamole, we're going to have to catch it on video this time, folks, of
yeah.
me actually sampling some of this guacamole. And
I don't believe it. Even if I see it on camera, it's
I'm
been
telling
faked.
you, it was a sight to see. But we didn't mention the keynote speaker this year at SCU is none other than Jonathan Stratton's father, Jay.
that's right.
So
That's
that's going to
awesome.
be. I can't wait to
I'm
hear what he's talking about.
I'm honestly a little bit heartbroken that I can't make it out there.
I was going to ask you.
I
That's a
was gonna
bummer.
try to make it, but I've got some, important pre-existing engagement stuff that I've got to do. So
It's a bummer.
it just wasn't gonna work.
Are we
Darn
going
it.
to get to we're going to get to see it at Phenomicon?
I will be at Phenomicon. In
I
fact,
was going
I'm
to say
gonna
you.
be
Yes.
there a lot longer than my last trip. I will be there for a couple days before, and I'll be there for at least one day after. I'm
Nice.
pretty sure I did that math right.
Perfect.
But
Nice.
I'll be looking for things to do. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's
if
We'll
any
awesome.
talk
of our
about that more.
insiders, anyone there happens to be joining early,
I will be
I'll
there
hope they
early,
hit me
so
up.
I'll be
So
hitting you up. I'll be there early too.
Roger and I, we do the Insider Family Reunion,
Yeah.
which of course is every year at Phenomicon on the eve of Phenomicon on that Tuesday night. Roger and I host a special get together for all the Skinwalker Ranch insiders, and I'm here to tell you, folks. Last year was the biggest crowd we had yet, and this year we filled up all the available seats, and we still have several people on the waiting list, but it looks like this year is going to be filled to capacity all the way through. So it's exciting. We're going to have a good crowd
Yes.
for the family reunion.
So great. It's so much fun.
Yeah, the I got to give in a plug for the Skinwalker Ranch Insider Group. One of the best investments I've ever made is investing in the Skinwalker Ranch Insider Program, and I do the kind of the expensive route. I do it on the monthly basis. So, but it's still one of the best decisions I ever made. It is one of the most vibrant and dynamic online communities I've ever been fortunate enough to be a member of. There's always great conversations going on the Skinwalker Ranch website for the insiders, and of course, getting access to the behind the scenes information. The team will periodically do video chats with the insiders, answer questions, and now with the new season coming up, I guarantee you, probably pretty close to a weekly basis. We'll probably get weekly summaries with members of the Skinwalker Ranch team that's out there. So, just it's one thing that all four of us here are fortunate enough to be able to be Skinwalker Ranch insiders. And Roger, you and I were among the first group of people that got to join the insider program back in, I think it was June or July of 2021 or 2022, whenever it was. And it's only gotten better ever since we've been members, and it's always a great group of moderators that are out there, and just the Michelle who runs the site. She just does such an amazing job. The admins that are there, they're just all awesome people, and again, the community itself, just a great group of curious individuals like Roger and I, and like all of us here. Um, I'm thankful for being an insider, and it's always great to be able to have an opportunity at least once a year for everybody to get together during Phenomicon. And Roger and I decided to host this event several years ago just to have a place where insiders could get together before the conference begins and just kind of meet up in a safe environment where there's great drinks, great food, great atmosphere, and just kind of kick off the Phenomicon experience in a really nice, laid back, and fun way, and to get to know some of the insiders in person. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys there at the Skinwalker Ranch Family Reunion
I
this
love that
year.
you changed the name to the family reunion because that's what it's like.
It
Because
really is. It
that's
really
the
is.
best benefit of
Yeah.
the insiders is not only the friends we've made. I mean, there are people that we've made a lot of friends, but I mean, you guys are family. Like you
Yeah.
guys are like, as far as I'm concerned, like
Yeah.
legit family,
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
other people in our group. You're family. You're brothers and sisters, as far as I'm concerned. So it's
I'm the ugly sister, if that's the case.
yes, that's
You know,
right, Sister
in
Jill.
fairness, I'm more of the nephew kind of deal at this
Yeah,
point.
our nephew John. Nephew John,
Yeah, I love Insider so much, honestly. It is a family. I really appreciate you guys putting together the family reunion at it's Vernal Brewing Company that we're doing it, right?
Yep.
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 Great location, great people. No,
Yep.
I really appreciate all that stuff. I love the Insiders group. Sometimes, I swear, I have to remind myself, hey, this isn't actually family. Be professional when you're talking to people in there.
except for us. We're
Yeah.
offended.
Yeah.
No, I've been
I
professional today on purpose. I've
You've
tried.
been very professional today.
my wife is sitting in the other room, so I have to mind my language.
I've I've gotten very close to wanting to just channel my inner Travis Taylor, but I don't think that you guys can afford the FCC regulations that could come upon you.
Oh, you remember we had Caleb Hanks on here, so
Oh,
I think we'd be safe.
Caleb and I are the different spectrum. We're on each end of the Guinness spectrum. You have Caleb's, and then you have me. I will be relaxed and chill and drinking Guinness and talk like this, and then we have a Dyna Beaver.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
so true.
did you
So
say
true.
Dino or Dinah? Because that'd be two different things. There is he the Dino or the Dinah Beaver?
For God's sakes, I hope he's the Dino Beaver.
Say no more.
Uh,
Say no more. Oh,
Yeah.
and John, I
I,
forgot. There's one other person I forgot to mention that we're going to get to see. We're going to get to see Gus and Bree,
And
right?
Oliver.
And Oliver, who I haven't met yet.
Oh,
So
that's right. You haven't met Oliver
oh,
yet.
I haven't met Oliver yet.
Yeah.
I got to see them on a FaceTime earlier for a few minutes. They
Yeah.
all jumped on top of my mother and started licking her, and she dropped her phone. They changed her phone over to something else, almost hung it up. It was great.
Like, what's going to happen is we're going to walk into your parents' house, and Gus is going to tackle me, knock me over. Bree is going to make a beeline for Jim because she is in love with him. Because she loves him. Like she looks at him with this a smile. Like,
Well, that's if I'm not wearing the Stetson. If I'm wearing the Stetson,
oh,
which I
right.
will be when I get into Huntsville, she might give me the stink eye while I'm wearing the Stetson. She doesn't like it when I wear that Stetson. I'll tell you.
Without the Stetson, she is smitten. Absolutely smitten with you.
yeah.
It's
Yeah. My
adorable.
first time visiting them since they had gotten Bree, I wasn't able to get. I didn't even get to touch her. Like I didn't get to pet her for I think 4 days.
Wow.
And then this last time that we went to visit, she was cuddling with me. She was so happy to see me. It was weird.
Oh,
It
that's
was
awesome.
very weird. I'm very happy to. I really wish I could go see that dog again. And I'm jealous that
I'm
you guys
jealous
are all
too.
going to be there.
Been there what, 4 times now?
Mhm.
I still, at best, will get a couple of pets, maybe. The first time Jim is there, within like no time, she's up snuggling up against him. I'm like,
I have photo evidence.
how did he
I
do
have
this?
photo evidence of Brianna's affair where she was stepping up and giving you love in the theater room. I have
Jim.
Yes,
video evidence
I
of that.
saw that
No, of
when
you, John. Of
when
you,
we
Oh,
did
John.
he
when we
did
did the
actually. I forgot about that. Yeah.
we did the FaceTime when you guys were in Huntsville back in March, when Caleb and Micah did the FaceTime with me, and I saw Bree climbing all over you,
I
John.
did. I
So
forgot about that. I forgot about that in the theater room. Yeah. That
yep,
was surprising
yep,
because, but then when she sees me now, she'll just growl again. I mean, it's going to take
yeah.
a few days to work back up to it.
Who would have thought the women that come between you guys as a band happened to be a four-legged boxer?
The dog.
That's hilarious.
I love him though. I don't
Well,
have a dog right now, so I
seeing
got to
as
get
how
my
Mike
dog.
Tyson's a three-legged boxer, it makes sense, right?
Oh, goodness.
The only dogs I'm around now though are your parents' dogs though, so I got to get my fill while I'm out there. I got to get all my dog puppy loving while I can.
It's a fight for me to not go adopt a dog. My schedule does not allow for it. I almost did it today.
Your mom posted that one. You should go get her.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I wish. I really, really wish my schedule allowed for it, but I can't be going away for 1 to 2 days at a time,
Yep.
yeah,
every multiple times a week.
Yeah, that's
It's
tough.
not
yeah,
fair.
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, it kind of surprised me because when I was there last year, for the first day or so that I was in the house, Bree just barked and growled at me every time. And then it was when John, when you and I were sitting in the room with Jay watching that movie, she just saunters in, looks at me, kind of cocks her head like that, jumps up on the couch, and next thing I know, she's literally cuddling right up next to me. And then from that moment on, anywhere I went, she had to be there. And
Yep.
I've
It was
never
awesome
seen a switch flip like that with a dog. It
how
was
you
great
did
to
it, but
see.
it happened for sure. It was adorable.
And she stole my heart, melted my heart in the process. So
If she loves you, it's a genuine love
that's right.
because you have to work for it.
Yep,
Some of us more than others.
absolutely. So yeah, I'm excited, John. I wish that I could get out there on Friday, but on this coming Friday for me, I'm actually going to be. I have something fun that I've been looking forward to for a long time. My not only one of my favorite bands of all time, but also very dear friends of mine, OMD, are coming to Salt Lake City, and so I get to hang out with my buddy Paul from OMD for a bit, and
On Friday.
on Friday, this coming Friday. So looking forward to that, and going to spend the day with OMD and party with them, and then at 5 o'clock in the morning of the next day, I've got to be on a plane to head for Huntsville. So and flying from Salt Lake into Atlanta, and then from Atlanta, I think into to Huntsville. But
Don't go through
yeah,
Dallas.
well, see, this is what I'm worried about. On my return trip home, I'm being routed through Dallas.
Yeah, but then you're not
So
in a hurry.
right,
It's the trip there you don't want to go through Dallas. Who
right,
cares if you get delayed a little on the way home?
yeah, that's happened to you before, right?
Got stuck an entire day and missed the whole party at Jay's house. That missed
Wow.
playing with Travis and Micah and Jay
Man,
at that party. But that's also kind of how Hitchhikers started. It's like,
Right.
in a way, that is exactly how that kind of began. So it kind of worked out.
Well,
But
I am taking Jay and Michelle out to. I want to treat them to dinner at that great Mexican place with that guacamole. So it's the least I can do. So I'm looking forward to that.
Jealous. So
Yep.
jealous.
So
Just
you
make
you
sure you tell Juan hi.
you know the place of which I speak.
You know, there's only 4 Mexican restaurants that they go to every week, so it's easy to deduce from there. I have a 25% chance.
And what's this I hear about this pizza place that John was telling me about last time he was
Oh,
there? I
dude,
guess
what was
there's
the
a
name of that pizza place, Johnny?
Oh
That
my goodness.
was that not amazing?
okay.
That
Now,
was the bane of
understand,
my
guys.
existence.
Under being a New Yorker,
Yeah.
I'm a snob when it comes to pizza.
This was
So
Brooklyn style.
It was phenomenal.
Good,
So
good, good.
I love that. So this is the closest you'll ever hear to me saying anything positive about New York, except Syracuse lacrosse. I'll say that they're great. I love New York style pizza, and their New York style pizza was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that terrifies me is they have a slice of pizza that is almost as big as my torso.
Yeah. Their slice is the size of a large Domino's pizza. It's
wow,
enormous. So
And the thing is, it's delicious.
it's yeah, you'll eat the whole thing. But
I really wanted to.
I show up, I call them, and I'm like, "Where are you guys? I'm leaving town." And I'm like, "Hey, well, we're having pizza. Why don't you swing by?" And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "We'll get you a slice. What do you want?" So I'm thinking a slice, right? I
Mhm.
show up and they bring it out, and I swear to God, it's enormous, like the
Oh,
enormous.
okay.
They
So
call it a mega slice.
what are the toppings on your perfect pizza, guys? Go.
I'm trying to remember what I had that day. I think I just had sausage.
So
Sausage, I
the
think
only
sausage and
options for the mega
pepperoni.
slice were pepperoni and cheese. Those are the
Mm,
only options for that particular slice.
Maybe that's what I had then.
mm.
Normally I go for sausage. Pepperoni can be it can kind of overwhelm the flavors. So I tend to go with a sausage, but yeah, I don't get too
I don't
crazy.
eat pepperoni personally.
I do not like pepperoni,
Yeah,
so
it's a little too
glad
strong.
glad to hear it. I would prefer sausage over pepperoni.
Yeah,
I
But
don't like greasy pizza.
for me, it's got to have mushrooms. I love mushrooms on a pizza. Mushroom, onions, and green peppers, and get those for me, and I will be a happy son bitch. Yes, I will.
I can do onions and green peppers, but I'm not a fungus fan on my pizza.
Does pineapple
Uh,
belong on a pizza?
No, it does not. I'm
Hear me
firm.
out. Hear me out. Korean barbecue pizza with
Oh,
pineapple on it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
hell
got
yeah. Yes,
It
Yeah,
was
I'm so in.
delicious.
Sounds good.
yeah.
It had kimchi barbecue beef or kimchi and barbecue beef with pineapple on it. Phenomenal.
Hmm.
My favorite slice of pizza. This is a little bit different from normal pizza. My local pizza place that I love to go to. It's a New York style place. It's the best pizza place within 100 square miles.
Mhm.
It is the singular best. They have a cilantro chicken pizza. It's got chicken, red onions, and then they
Hmm.
have this cilantro lime crema that they put on it.
Oh,
It is amazing. Takes everything I love about tacos, everything I love about pizza, puts it into one. And then it's a New York style pizza, so it's beautiful. Brick oven, fantastic.
Sure.
okay, that answers my question then. So you're one of the people that actually likes cilantro. So that you passed one of the big tests for me because Roger and I were big fans of cilantro and lime.
Gonna ask. I couldn't
On
remember if Roger liked cilantro too.
oh
Yep.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
yep, gotta have.
Cilantro is fantastic.
And cilantro is so good. It helps to take toxins out of your body. It removes heavy metals. Not that kind of heavy metal, but you know what I mean. Okay, dumb
Yeah.
joke. Sorry.
But but that's my favorite pizza in general. Like, if I'm going, I'm getting a slice. That's what I'm getting.
Nice. Well, see, I'm actually so after I come back from Alabama, 3 days after I come back from Alabama, I take off for New York for a week with my boys, and we're going upstate New York, obviously, because for those that don't know, I'm a New Yorker, but I'm upstate New York. I was born and raised in upstate New York, not New York City. And so my hometown, where I was born and raised, one of the things they are known for is their pizza. And so my boys, the last time I took them to New York, to my old stomping grounds, they got to try real, quote unquote, real pizza, and they have been spoiled forever. And they've been chomping at the bit to go back and have some real like you were saying, Johnny, New York style pizza. And I'm also taking them up to Buffalo to try Duff's Hot Wings. The authentic Buffalo hot wings is not the Anchor Bar. That's where they originated. But the best hot wings in Buffalo are from Duff's. And that's where we're going to be going. Going to take them to Niagara Falls and do all kinds of fun stuff for a week while we're there, back visiting my old stomping ground in New York. Which so June's going to be a busy month for me.
Yep. And we'll have to see if we can get together when you're traveling up. We'll have to see if we can make that work.
Yeah, we might have a spare day where I can get down and we might be able to coordinate, if nothing else, maybe trying to meet halfway somewhere between where we're going to be in New York, because we're going to be right on the Pennsylvania border, kind of like the central Pennsylvania border, part of where New York is. The southern tier is the
Yeah.
region that where I'm from, that they call it.
If
Uh,
you're driving, the route that you're going to take most likely is probably going to take you right through where like the area I work in.
cool. Well,
So we'll have to
usually
work on that.
we usually drive down Interstate 81, if that gives you any idea.
Do you
There's
do 95 or 301, any of those when you do that?
yeah 95. I think we take I'll have to look at it again, but I do know that from my hometown to Bethesda, Maryland, which is where we used to stay anytime my family would go to DC, we'd stay in Bethesda. It was only about a 4.5 hour drive, 4.5, 5 hours. So it's not bad until you actually get to the DC Beltway area that the nightmare begins, as they say. But I digress. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us tonight on this wonderful conversation. Any closing thoughts or ideas? John Nyberger, we'll start with you. Any closing thoughts or sentiments?
No, other than this was just a blast. It was great talking to everybody. And, as always, it's good to see you and Roger. And then having Johnny on here was the icing on top. It was great.
Right on. And Johnny, how about you? Closing thoughts or remarks?
It's just fantastic to get to talk to you guys. It's just a family reunion of its own. So I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Great. And great to have you on as a guest, and guaranteed will not be the last time. We're Roger and I have to organize that shadow being episode, and we would love to have you on as a guest to share some of your experiences for sure. Roger, how about you? Closing thoughts or remarks?
Just again, thank you, everybody. It's wonderful to have all of you on here, and great to see you again, John, you, Jim, and as well as you, Johnny. It's been a while since we've caught up, so it's been a fantastic episode, and I appreciate all of our podcast listeners, and thank you for tuning in. And again, it's a pleasure, and can't wait for next time.
Fantastic. And so thank you again, Roger. It's always a pleasure to be on the podcast with you, my friend. And I got to tell you, folks, Roger and I will be back very soon. And we'll be doing probably that Shadow Being episode before too long. And John, I look forward to seeing you in a little over a week's time. And Mr. Stratton, we will see you hopefully sooner than later as well. And Roger, we got to go out for tacos sometime, buddy.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Alrighty, folks. Well, thanks again. And if you like what you saw and heard here on the podcast, then hit that like button below down there somewhere, and hit that subscribe button as well. And we will see you next time right here on The Soul of the Unexplained. See ya.